Help protect us from racism and xenophobia by becoming an I Love Black People ambassador today. Join on iloveblackpeople.com. No matter where you are in the world, join us today and get access to the I Love Black People network. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.
Welcome to another edition of I Love Black People, and thank you so much again for joining us on this wonderful journey, which wouldn't be possible without you. My name is Sinclair Skinner, co-founder I Love Black People tech startup, and just having a great opportunity to share with you so many of the things that we're working on, and doing a series on around the issue of blockchain. I was basically given a more or less the origin story of our startup and a discussion of literally how we got to the blockchain summit, which you will be hosting September 26th and 27th at Howard University, as well as what got us involved in using these technologies to solve problems in our community. And just want to also give a shout out. We're actually doing something with the Universal Soul Circus on August 3rd. So definitely make sure you come out and check us out at 6:30. And we got some tickets that we're going to be giving away also. So make sure you reach out to info at iloveblackpeople.com. Again, all the folks that have been doing all the support and sending us information and topics to talk about, go ahead and send that to info at iloveblackpeople.com and get an opportunity to win some tickets and share and spread the love and enjoy yourself. My wife and my mother and niece and sister all went to the circus and had a blast. So I'll be there August 3rd as a special guest ringmaster. So again, thank you so much for all your support. Make sure y'all come check us out. And then another big date is October 4th. We do our official launch of our I Love Black People app. Many of you have been a part of our work in developing it, and we basically are now wrapping up our community development phase uh, with a real big push to make sure we do all the updates and make sure the app is working at the level that you deserve, and to get in the hands of as many of our people so we can protect ourselves and our communities from the harms and humiliations of racism and Afrophobia. And we define Afrophobia as the irrational fear or hatred of people perceived to be of African descent. And we say perceived to be of African descent, again, we don't get into what you call yourself. There's people call themselves Akabulan patriots. There's people that call themselves a host of things. And our thing is that, when it comes to self-identification and identity, with all the things that we've gone through, some of that can be triggering and causes, again, unnecessary trauma and other things that end up coming out in ways that aren't constructive. So what we say at the end of the day, however you identify, we want to make sure that you're literally protected from racism and Afrophobia. And with the technology and leveraging Pan-African unity through crowdsourcing, based on a model that was started by Victor Green in the 1930s, not by a nonprofit, not by a church, not by a government, but literally by a incredible entrepreneur who literally was committed to our people and committed to creating a better world than he was born into. And we are a part of that same legacy, and we honor that, and we honor all our ancestors that have taken a principled stance and dedicated their lives to a cause that was greater than themselves. And we stand on those shoulders, and we honor those shoulders by continuing that legacy through the work that we're doing, leveraging technology as our source and using the inspiration that they give us. And of course, we always start off with, in our meetings, if you attended our Saturday classes, we always start off with a prayer. Make sure, and then, I need to make sure y'all check that out. Make sure you check out our Saturday Pan African history class with Dr. Tyreen Wright. Those are at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can kind of get the time zones no matter where you're based off, so you know that. So make sure you do that. And of course, you can go on Amazon and get our Green Book. Our Global Green Book is, I think, in our fifth edition. And I want to shout out to Dr. Anana Akua, Professor Anana Akua, who's amazing, Howard alum. Definitely so blessed to to have her in our lives, and just want to make sure that we let her know that. And the book definitely, and we'll be coming out with a next one, another one next year. So with that being said, let's jump into the conversation that we've been having regarding, how do we get to the point where we have a Black Blockchain Summit? And then we were talking about the origin story of some of the engagement I had in Africa, meeting our co-founder of Bill Mari, uh, Mr. Christopher Mapendera, and I met him through a good friend, Obi Igbuna, who's super. I mean, when it comes to Pan Africanism, it comes to understand geopolitics, it comes to understanding our people and the struggles that we've gone through and the resistance that we've waged. It's, hands down one of the best of the best of the best. And he connected me to uh, brother Christopher Mamadera, who also went to Howard University. And Obi went to UDC, so that's University of District Columbia, another amazing institution of higher learning in Washington, D.C., HBCU. And one of the things that was in key in that is that we started off from a commonality of HBCUs, and there's no perfect HBCUs or perfect universities, but I really do tell people that you compare HBCUs to other institutions, uh, there's probably they're without peer. Like if you look at pound for pound the contributions that HBCUs have made to the world as it relates to the uplifting of humanity and literally all the things that we would think that higher learning would do to improve the quality of life of people. Pound for pound, HBCUs have easily outperformed any almost peer type institutions, be it any of these large states university systems or Ivy League systems. HBCUs, what they've done from day one is without peer. Again, they've been on the right side of history at every turn, while many of these other institutions have had to figure it out or find their way much later. But HBCUs are founded in the righteousness of our humanity, and so we don't take it lightly when we talk about our founders, myself and the co-founder, attending HBCUs. These are decisions that are deliberate and definitely formative in our early stages of our lives, and we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing with our I Love Black People, with the Black Blockchain Summit, without that foundation of mission. Many of these HBCUs are again founded in a mission, and those missions are ringing our ears as we go through the halls of these universities to take us, our people, and the world a step closer to the justice that it deserves, and that we are so you know encouraged to pursue. And with that being said, we took this opportunity with the time that we've been together with Mr. Mapendera, who's again from Zimbabwe, and we were doing projects in Zimbabwe together. And one of the biggest issues was moving money. And when Bitcoin came out, it became something we thought of as a solution to allow us to break the duopolies and monopolies of the financial institutions that were quite parasitic and extractive and predatory as it related to money being moved in countries like Zimbabwe. So in the advent of what we discussed before, we developed many relationships on the ground. And one of the things that we thought was important, with the fact that, again, as you may not know, that already been mobile money in in Africa, from Kenya to Zimbabwe. uh they didn't have to use ATMs to transfer value. They used their actual phones. They had to pull out their wallet. They pulled out their phones. So there was already an appetite in Zimbabwe for innovation. And so when we decided to found and come up with our startup BitMari, and that's the original name, BitMari, and Mari stands for money and Shona Ndebele, and Bit was for Bitcoin. Um, we had the thoughts to put something together that would serve our communities in a way that hadn't been done before. And our corridor was the two pairs we were looking at was United States and Zimbabwe, and being able to move money back and forth utilizing Bitcoin. And then we had a bank partner called AgriBank that was super great. And again, they had the sanctions lifted off for them, but unfortunately, the U.S. government hadn't updated their website. So when we were looking at different partners to work with, exchange partners to work with, it was difficult because they said, "Well, we can't work." Of course, and you don't want to violate these sanctions because there are fines and penalties. So and we're definitely astute enough to know that too, but we had all the documentation that made it clear that they weren't under sanctions, and but yet the cloud of that made it very difficult to do business. And so in Zimbabwe, they call these things targeted sanctions, which is really a misnomer. When you hear about the U.S. government sanctioning countries, they'll often say they're targeted to, the president or to key officials. But what they don't tell you is that anytime you have a sanction regime, you have to screen everybody. If you're saying you're looking for one person who can't come in, that means you got to ask everybody who they are. You can't just let people in. And when you start talking about African landlocked countries that have small populations, there's no, it's very hard for someone to come up with a financial model that could de-risk all those variables in order to invest quite a bit of amount of money into those countries and be under those circumstances. So I think in many ways the environment was right for a startup type company to be involved because again, with startups, we're really trying to do something that's never been done before in a way that's never been done before. So traditional relationships probably would not have worked. So we actually started off with Coinbase. Coinbase had been the first company we had looked at working with as in our exchange because we had our own wallet and we still to this day like we have the longest running wallet price non-custodial. We don't keep your keys, you keep your keys. Non-custodial wallet, longest running non-custodial wallet, pan-african wallet in history. And the first one was done by Lamar Wilson. It was a brother, the FIFA wallet, and he basically pioneered the concept and was on the iOS, Apple App Store. And we came behind his able, bodied work and developed our own non-custodial wallet that's in Google Play as well as iOS to this day. And with that being said, we needed an exchange partner so that those transactions could be made because we wanted to make sure that all the things that we work with were at the level that it should be. And one of the early supporters we had was a company called Perkins Coie. And as you know, they were recently, Trump had tried to do something, executive order against Perkins Coie, but Perkins Coie actually saw us as Black founders with an idea to help a African country and using something called Bitcoin. And they literally were willing to uh, support us by representing us and deferred the fees. They did all our incorporation documents. They got us off the ground and what they did for us was really transformational because what they did was give us the foundation so that we could go out and build on that had all the I's and the T's are properly checked off. So, with that being said, we were able to start, and then they gave us the good faith by deferring to about 25,000 at least of fees for all the work they had done because they believed in our concept and our idea. And from there, we just kept building. We said that we could get a license. They believed us, and we worked and worked. And literally, the first country in the history of the world to issue a remittance license to explicitly use Bitcoin to remit cash was the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, first in the history of the world. Before there was El Salvador, before there was any of these other places. It was Zimbabwe. And we're really, these things were not told unless we tell our story, they won't be told either. So we got to make sure we tell our story. But with that being said, that was the origin story where we started off and we were able to leverage all those things. dealing with issues of fencing, licensing, so many pieces of these puzzles in order to get them off the ground. And it was important that we used some of the best best in class organizations to work with. One of the things they would often tell us, with especially startups in Africa or two black co-founders, that you needed a white co-founder. Like this is in the 21st century. We're still being told that you need to get a white co-founder in order to make money. Like who said that? Like what world would that make sense in? So we never made decisions on that in that way. We made our decisions based on principle that we had to do what's right and what's meant to be will be. And that being said, of course, we had a large company like Perkins Coie, but we also had some smaller black-owned law firms that also helped us. And what was great about Perkins Coie, we were dealing with people that were so, again, they were well connected, super connected in the startup space in general, as well as the crypto space. So we were able to make inroads leveraging the incredible law firm that represented us. But they also said there were some things that, hey, it'd be better to use your own, you have a separate law firm or get have someone in your bookkeeper, somebody do certain things, because they would tell us, look, this would cause you to have to pay these kind of fees. It'd be better if you have somebody do this and it wouldn't be as expensive. And we can take care of the other things. So having a working relationship with your lawyer or lawyers that you're working with is probably so important early on in a tech startup to make sure that you're making decisions in the most effective and efficient way, and that you're not taken advantage of, or you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and that's a part of the process. But when you have experts around who can help you navigate some of these waters, who are again working for you and your interests, I think that's a key role. But when they tell you you have to hire somebody because of race, slavery's over, colonialism's over. We're not having it. We're not going back. Never. We're never going back. So, with that being said, we were able to really start off in a very strong way. Ultimately, with the help of Agribank and some of our partners, we were able to get the remittance license. Like I said, the first startup in the history of the planet to get a remittance license to explicitly use Bitcoin to remit cash. We were on our way. And then one of the things that was key, we wanted to make which is difficult, is that this is like back in 2016 and 17. So we're talking about a very early time in the Bitcoin space. Let's say the Bitcoin white paper was at 2009. You're really talking about, maybe 7 years in, 8 years in, very early. If you think of 8 years into the internet, you're talking about literally like the 70s. So you're really talking about early days of a technology of an industry. And one of the things we thought was important, if we're going to make sure that we leverage the full potential of these technologies, that we need to make sure the people that we were doing this for, the black communities throughout the world, to make sure they understood and knew what this technology was about. And so from that, we decided that we would do a bus tour, the first transatlantic Bitcoin bus tour. And we had real good help from early on in those days. We had a brother working with us who also went to Howard, um, Roger Roman, super helpful. And then we had our first developer we signed on from Zimbabwe is a brother Tungai Choto, super smart, drafted them first round, straight out of college. Um, and Brother Pocosi. We had a good, team of folks on the ground as well as in the States getting everything together to launch something that had never been done before. And we wanted to make sure the environment that we were doing it was as informed as possible and informed as possible. So after doing some of our tests and whatnot, we decided that we would do the tour to to launch the application of this remittance project. So we had tried to figure out what would be the best way to communicate with a group of Black people who would have the interest in something like this technology and be able to also be able to use it. So we thought about doing a bus tour of historically black colleges and universities and African universities. So when I say transatlantic, so we kicked it off in October, went through again, Howard, A&T, FAMU, Prairie View, all these, AUC, and we made sure we stopped in every city, and we had like host committees, and we basically shared the good news, had people download the app, had people the flyer, we had rally signs, all of these things in order to share with people what we were doing and how powerful the work that we were doing in trying to make sure that our people were aware of this new technology called Bitcoin and how we could literally unlock it for the power for our people. And we took that not only throughout the United States, and then we got another bus, and we wrapped the bus. And the bus we had like our liberation heroes on one side of it, and we had our Bitcoin superhero sister. Again, our slogan was Satoshi is Black. Satoshi Nakamura is the person who, or persons who created Bitcoin, and it's a pseudonym. And I always tell people it's probably not a Japanese person who created, because why would you pick a pseudonym that would make people, know that it was a Japanese person? You would try to disguise yourself. Like Dr. Seuss really wasn't a doctor. So in many ways, we made sure that we kind of linked our identity as Black people to Satoshi, understanding the power of what Satoshi had done is something very similar to the power that we've given to the people of the world. So that being said, the Satoshi is Black, all those things and elements, we put it on the bus. It was just teaching folks. We had John Karanja for BitHub Africa, shout out, super, I mean, one of the most brilliant people I met in the space. We had so many people. Sister Fetus, part of our project, we included a women's farm accelerator where we leveraged our app that we created, the wallet that we had created so that people could store the Bitcoin. We used that for digital coupons so that we could fund women farmers. And we had like about 100 women farmers involved, 10 different provinces, amazing. And that support came from many brothers and sisters in the United States, sharing and supporting the work that was necessary in order to get that off the ground. So for us, it was really a good opportunity to kind of push this in a way that makes sense. But more than that, we wanted to make sure that what we were doing really made a difference. And so along the way, as we were navigating some of the regulatory issues, we wanted to make sure we still were doing something that leveraged the power of the technologies that we were involved in. And the Women's Farm Program was really a pretty amazing activity in itself, separate above what we were doing with remittances. Being able to have a program to support women farmers was pretty amazing. And and I also would say this. I look back on some of the work we did and how amazing it was, and I think sometimes we got to be careful. We had counterparts, European counterparts, that were doing very underwhelming things, yet they were getting accolades. And much of the work that we were doing, we were fighting to be heard. And oftentimes it seemed like what we were doing might not be significant enough. But in truth, what happens again, this is consistent with the world that we've currently been born in under a white supremacist ideology, where oftentimes, again, Europeanness is put at a premium, and blackness, Africanness is discounted severely. So the work we were doing really was quite innovative and very critical in the adoption phase. They always call it the last mile, and the work we were doing in that regards, you know, was important. And somebody like Simon Dixon with Bank to the Future was one of our early supporters, and he through his source crowdfunding platform helped us raise our first. It was like about 340 some $1,000, and we had Howard University alums. Shout out to Frank Turner. Omar Kareem, Adrian Fenty. It was so many, Fred Butler. There was so many people in our early days. I'm leaving Aaron McKinnon. There's so many people that were a part of us getting off the ground. I'm not doing enough to shout out those names, um, because it was critical that we got the support from so many people. Of course, our families and our friends, and I mean, I think that's a part of the story that we don't tell enough of. I got married during that period of time, so shout out to my wife Carol. Um, I think when you start looking at that early phase where we're getting the project off the ground, the things that people think they can do is 100 times more than what most people think they can do. And I think some of us oftentimes dream too small, and with those small dreams, it creates a level of stress and a level of crampedness and difficulty unnecessary. We need to dream bigger. And I think, in that space, to have people who see your big, crazy dreams and are willing and to commit to, like even the employees that, never heard of Bitcoin, but yet were willing to give their life's work to supporting this opportunity. We're so, so, so grateful. Arnold Bryant, William Bryant, shout out to Arnold. Like, it's just so much, my mom and dad, everyone who came, Mr. Bafadera's wife, like all these folks giving of their time and their energy that they can't get back, but they gave it willingly in a way that really transformed what we did and what we've done, and will continue to do. With that being said, that's all for the day, but I just want to thank everybody. And as I always say, I am because we are.
Help
Thank
protect us from racism and xenophobia by becoming an I Love Black People ambassador today. Join on iloveblackpeople.com. No matter where you are in the world, join us today and get access to the I Love Black People network. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.